What's up, my A2D family, sports fans? Welcome to the Sports Hounds. Monday night, per usual, he's Brad. I'm Rob Brinkman, Frank Vesby, producing the show. Turmoil, heartbreak, injury, train wreck. I think that those are all words that can describe both of our teams, Brad, through two games of the season. We got a lot of Eagles talk tonight. We got some Giants talk. We got some NFC East talk. We have the final week of the regular season in baseball. Monday Night Football, the Las Vegas Raiders making their home debut tonight in Las Vegas against the Michael Thomas-less New Orleans Saints. You know, as always, let's take care of some business before we get into our poll question. Sports Hounds, as always, were brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. He's our doc. Make him yours too. Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC. 3 convenient locations in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton. He's A2D Radio's doc. A2D Radio's doc. Make him yours too. Also brought to you by Ambuck Services. They are the gutter and deck experts of South Jersey. Give them a call, 856-879-5530. Tell them A2D Radio sent you. As always, we are live on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, Instagram, YouTube. You miss anything, any live content on A2D Radio, stream us podcast form, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play. The takeover is real. A2D Radio, we're absolutely everywhere. Fastest growing sports media company in the country. Let's get to our poll. Let's get right into it. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm sort of in shock about how things went down over these past.
You're in shock.
What's that, Brad?
You're in shock. Think of what happened. Think of what we were thinking as Giant fans in the second quarter.
It's been tough.
Nothing worse than having your star player go down on basically what was a cut. I mean, he basically cut and tore at it and blew at his knee.
Yeah, and Brad, I have no love lost for New York, and my heart rarely goes out for New York and their fan base, but Saquon Barkley tearing his ACL, it's not good for the Giants. It's not good for football. It's not good for the NFL. It's not good for competition in the NFC East. It's not good for anyone because he's a good dude. He's a PA guy. He's a Penn Stater. Represents himself as a good dude. So, I mean, that's a real shame. He's probably going to be out till what? At least training camp next year. May have to.
Those injuries are 6 to 12-month injuries. It depends on the individual player, of course. But I mean, he's a freak. He's a freak of a athlete. So you probably would think he'd probably be between 8 and 10. I mean, he'll probably be able to get to training camp, although I don't know if he'll even be able to start the season on time. Who knows? I mean, that's just awful.
I mean, we just experienced. I mean, our best player, our franchise guy, Carson Wentz, in the middle of 2017. He tore his ACL. I feel like he's never really quite been the same since.
No, he's real. You know what? And let's get to him because it just seems to me that he's tentative now, and he looks nervous back there. And I don't think he looks down the field, sees the field as well as he used to. I think he's a little nervous, and it's just you're right. It just doesn't look. He doesn't look like he doesn't really look like he just looks so stressed out right now. He doesn't look like he's having fun right now.
Hey, Tommy Arnone, our fearless leader, Greg Milakovic, Stevie Reichel, they had Jaws on last night. Ron Jaworski, great quarterback guy, great NFL analyst. Go listen to that in podcast form, stream it wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share A2D Radio. Yeah, I mean, it's the elephant in the room right now. And I know that the defense was bad yesterday, and this team, look, the Eagles have a lot of issues right now. They have a lot of issues right now. But
Yeah, I thought honestly, I just think right now the entire team is not. There's something wrong with that team right now. They do not look anything like a playoff team. As a matter of fact, I think they look more like a 6-10, 7-9 team than a playoff team. And don't tell me 7-9 is going to be good enough to make the playoffs, because after seeing what the Cowboys did yesterday, they're not going 7-9. They'll probably win 10 games.
And this team has a lot of issues right now. It is not good in Eagle Land right now.
No, I mean, with the way they're playing right now, the Super Bowl window is closed, and the playoff window is about 3/4 of the way closed. Right?
I mean,
unless they show a hell of a lot more than what they've shown, and I'll tell you what, if they go out and they spank the Bengals next week, that's not going to prove to me anything, because they should spank the Bengals. The Bengals are horrible. I
can't really argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see them probably beat the Bengals, and then everybody will be like, "Oh, we're back." No, don't even go there, because yesterday you got beaten up so badly yesterday that it's just right now you have to reevaluate what's going on with this team.
So we're getting it all off our chest tonight in Eagle Land. And you can get it off your chest with the East and the Giants. The Yankees have clinched their spot in the playoffs. The Phillies are scratching and clawing to get in the playoffs. We have Monday Night Football. We got a lot going on. We got to get it all off our chest. And, Brad, I totally agree with you. A win against the Bengals isn't a cure-all for me. This team can at least win the next two for me to be like, okay, maybe we can make something happen this season. And
the worst part, Rob, is seeing the Cardinals just absolutely tear apart the football team. I mean, that in itself speaks miles about how bad the Eagles are right now.
But Brad, am I out of line saying that them losing the football game yesterday isn't really that big of a surprise to me? I mean, the Rams are a good team.
Oh, they're very good, but they shouldn't get beaten up. They shouldn't get beat up.
I understand that. The optics of the loss didn't look good.
It's not just the fact that they lost, Rob. The fact that they gave up 191 yards on the ground. And basically, the Rams had a two-pitched attack. They could either run the ball or pass the ball and pick up big yardage either way. Now, you got to stop at least one of them or be respectable. I mean, giving up over 100 yards on the ground is never something that you want to brag about, but 191 is just too many. I mean, you can't let that happen.
And then, football 101, you got to win up front in the trenches. Week 1, Chase Young and the Washington football team, Ryan Kerrigan and all those monsters, they kicked the shit out of your offensive line. You lost that battle big time. And then the other side of the ball, they get the shit kicked out of them against the Rams, getting gashed for 191 yards. With how much money and how much resources the Philadelphia Eagles have tied up in their defensive front, Fletcher Cox, $100 million. Brandon Graham makes a nice chunk of change. Hargrave comes in as the big free agent guy. Malik Jackson, he's the big free agent guy of last year. And Derek Barnett, by the way, he's the 14th pick in the draft. So you have a lot of draft capital, a lot of cap capital tied up in that offensive line. And it's not like the Rams have a Todd Gurley in his prime or a Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey in his prime, a Zeke. That they're got like a 3 average running backs back.
They have a committee. But they're all a little different. You have a little bit of power, you have a little bit of speed, and you have a little bit of just, smartness with those running backs. And let's be honest, the coach likes to mix it up. I mean, he had Kupp running that end around. I mean, he uses everybody in any type of situation. I mean, we knew he was a good coach, Coach McVay, but I mean, it just seemed like whatever the Rams wanted to do yesterday, they did. and the Eagles had no answer. I mean, when the Eagles came back and made it close, the Rams were like, oh, it was almost like the Rams were like, oh, yeah? That can't happen.
And then getting to the quarterback, who I have a lot of criticism of today, because that's 2 weeks in a row he has not played like a franchise quarterback. That's 2 weeks in a row. I would say outside of Howie Roseman, he's the biggest individual to blame for this 0-2 start. That's the $100 million man, the franchise quarterback, the guy you're supposed to lean on to get you through these tough times. He ain't getting it done. You mentioned at the top of the show, Brad, he looks tentative. He looks lost. He's woefully inaccurate. He's making horrible decisions with the football. He's holding the football too long. He doesn't seem to have command of this offense like he has in the past. I don't know what's wrong with Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz needs to look in the mirror and figure it out before week 3. Because I think you can already kiss a wild card berth goodbye with all the good teams in the NFC. Thankfully, the NFC East is still really bad.
The only problem is the NFC West is so good that I believe 3 of those 4 teams are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, kiss the wild card goodbye. Kiss one of the 3. I don't even care that there's 3 wild cards instead of 2 wild cards. The Philadelphia Eagles, just like I said in preseason, nor does anybody in the NFC East have a prayer at one of the 3 wild card berths. None of the 4 teams in this division are that good.
No, and I'll tell you what, that NFC West is going to be one hell of a division this year. I mean,
by the way, the NFC East, that's a tough draw this year because they have to play every team in the NFC.
Yeah, West. You know what? I mean, I'm looking at my team. I don't see the Giants beating any of those teams. If they beat one of those 4 teams, that'll be a freaking miracle. And the way the Eagles are playing, if they go 1-3, that might be as good as it's going to get. I mean, San Francisco basically looked good again yesterday. The Cardinals just looked outstanding against the Redskins. And, Seattle is Seattle. Seattle took out New England. They did a nice job doing what they had to do to win that game. And, we couldn't have gotten a worse situation than to have to play that division. Because now somebody has to win the division to make the playoffs.
And I think the Eagles, and that brings us to our poll question. Our poll question each and every week brought to you by Philly Drinkers, LLC. Visit them online. Visit them on Facebook. Like them, share them. Just go to their website, click on the A2D Radio Collection, buy your merch. We need you out there as human billboards. We are nothing without our A2D family on social media, Facebook, all the different platforms. We need you in real life, too. We need you to buy your sweatshirts. We need you to buy your hoodies. We need you to buy your blankets, your tumblers, your sunglasses. We got absolutely everything for you there. PhillyDrinkers.com. A2D Radio Collection. As many human billboards as possible. Help spread the word. It's takeover talk, ladies and gentlemen. We need you. But the Philadelphia Eagles will win the NFC East. Brad, where do you stand on this?
Well, I mean, it's only week 2, so it's kind of and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe part of the problem with this team is that, and this is not an excuse, but perhaps they're having a little bit more problems than some of the other teams because there was no preseason games, and perhaps this is part of the problem, and they just haven't found their rhythm either offensively or defensively. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, you would think that they're too talented a team to be playing this badly. And then you could think that, well, maybe they're old. But, the Bears are older than they, defensively especially. The Bears have the oldest defense in the league. And you know what? Their defense looks very, very good. So I'm not really sure what to make of this, but I don't think they're going to win the division. Not the way the Cowboys looked offensively yesterday against the Falcons. I mean, it just seems to me like, when Dak had the chance to win that game, he moved them right down the field twice. And I mean, the Cowboys it just seems like they may not have a great defense. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game, but you know what? They have enough offense just on its own to win this division. And I don't think that anybody in the NFC East is defensively good enough to keep the Cowboys under 30. And I don't know that anybody in the NFC East, other than the Cowboys, is going to score 30. So it's good. I just can't see them not winning now, especially after the beating the Redskins took yesterday.
Well, the Washington football team, I mean, they stole one.
Football team, I'm sorry.
Eagles. They stole one against the Philadelphia Eagles. They should not have won that game. The Eagles were asleep at the wheel. The Eagles went up 17-0. They fell asleep at the wheel. They let the Redskins score 27 unanswered. I also think the Eagles took the Washington football team lightly in that game, deactivating Miles Sanders, deactivating Lane Johnson when they probably, push comes to shove, should have been out there, putting Deshaun Jackson on a pitch count. They took the Washington football team lightly, and they paid dearly. There is no reason whatsoever this football team shouldn't be 1-1. It's an acceptable.
But the fact that they right now, you have to wonder what games for them are gimmies.
There are no gimmies. I said that at the beginning of the year. This team is not talented enough to be taking teams lightly. There are no gimmies on this schedule. Now, things get a little easier with the Giants losing Saquon Barkley. Doesn't look like I thought they were going to make this year.
Seemed like yesterday, though, after Saquon went out, it seemed like the team was galvanized after that, and they played a lot better, to be quite honest with you. I mean, the defense certainly picked it up, in the second quarter, and then in the third and fourth quarter, they threw a shutout. The defense, if you're looking at the Giants defense did everything they were supposed to do yesterday to keep the team in the game in the second half. They shut them out on the last possession. They didn't let them score, and the Giants were able to get the ball with good field position, and they did their part. So you can't be upset with the defense. I mean, giving up 17 points to anybody in the NFL is not a bad thing. That's a
good outing.
That's a good outing. The offense just couldn't get on track, and it seemed like after Barkley got hurt and the Giants were forced to start moving the ball around and throw the ball to everybody and use everybody, it seemed like the offense played a lot better after that. But unfortunately, that Bear defense is good, and the Giants aren't good enough to fall behind 17-0 against a good defense. They're just not. I mean, they're playing the Bengals maybe, but not the Bears, especially at Soldier Field.
And with the Giants team, it's a little bit human nature, a little bit instincts. You lose your franchise running back, one of the best running backs in the whole league. It looked like the Giants really stepped up from a defensive standpoint and played better, tried to pick up the offense with their play.
Well, they did. I mean, they had 2 interceptions yesterday, and I mean, you got to give them credit for that. I mean, I can't remember last year them getting 2 interceptions in a game, especially on the road. That's a good sign. And Bradbury looked really good. I mean, I thought their defense played pretty well. I thought their defense played well against Pittsburgh too, to be honest. But
your two big time free agent signings in Blake Martinez and James Bradbury are 1,000% pulling their weight.
Oh, absolutely. And excellent. They had. I think they had 4 more sacks yesterday, so I think that brings the total to 8 for the season. So I mean, even though everybody said they have no pass rush, they're getting a good enough pass rush right now.
And then that brings me to my defense in Philadelphia. I mean, you got the Giants stink. They have no expectations. They have not much of anything going on, really. They're getting sacks. They're getting interceptions. I haven't seen a sack or an interception in Philadelphia from an Eagles defense in a year and a half, I feel like, since 2017. So, I mean, it's really gut check time for the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Really?
If they ever lose to Cincinnati, I mean, where are they playing Cincinnati anyway?
It's in Philadelphia.
Oh, there's no way. If they lose to Cincinnati, that would be a.
Well, I think it's a favorable matchup. I think it could be.
I can't imagine they're going to lose that. They'll score. I mean, they should score a lot of points. The one thing the Bengals don't do well is defend. Their defense is awful this year.
I expect it to be a get-right game for my defensive front that's full of first-round draft picks and highly paid players, because I watched most of their game against the Los Angeles Chargers, and obviously being the Thursday primetime game, I was able to watch much of that game. The Bengals in the trenches are not a good football team.
No, they give up too many points. I mean, the Browns toasted them last week for 35. I mean, that's the one thing they're not a good defensive football team right now. And the Eagles offensively should be able to get on track against that team.
So we got the poll question. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to make the playoffs by winning the NFC East. I think we can kiss the wild card, one of the 3 wild cards, out the window for anybody in the NFC East. I just think the rest of the NFC is way too good. But one team from the NFC East is going to make the playoffs. I still see a path, believe it or not, as much as I've crushed Carson on social media from the end of that game to today, to as much as I trashed Carson in the chat last night on Agree to Disagree with Tommy and Wilson and Greg and Uncle Sweeps and the boys, I still see a path to 9 wins for this team. I still think a division title, a playoff berth, is attainable for this team.
Well, I mean, it's only 2 games, Rob. So I mean, yeah, it is attainable. But next week's game against the Bengals, I know it's early, but next week's game is a must-win.
You cannot go 0-3. It is a 1,000% must-win next week.
Yeah, especially against that team.
From what I've seen, I mean, I can't Brinkman guarantee next week that they're going to win. I can't do that.
Well, they can't lose that game. If they lose that game, it's over, because that's the weakest team on their schedule. The rest of the teams in that division are not going to be easy for the Eagles. Okay, and that includes the Browns too. Because it looks like the Browns getting rid of Freddie Kitchens, it looks like their team now has a little bit of an idea, and that could be a detriment for the Eagles trying to defend that team.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to figure they're not beating the Ravens, they're not beating the Steelers.
Well, they backed themselves into a corner, so they're going to have to.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They're going to have to win at least 1 or 2 of these games that look like impossible to win at this point in the season when you're sitting 0-2. And I've seen it before. I've been an Eagles fan my whole life, Brad. I've seen them screw up games against a stinky Miami team. I've seen them quit in New Orleans and lose 48-7. And then, I've seen them beat the cream of the crop of the league to, get themselves back in it. So I still see a path to 9 wins for this football team and a division championship. And you know where it starts next week, Brad? It starts with the franchise quarterback, Carson Wentz, because I have not seen Carson Wentz take 1 snap this season and look like a franchise quarterback. I haven't. He threw another 2 interceptions yesterday. He threw 2 interceptions in week 1. He threw a pick in the end zone yesterday, which totally killed the momentum of the game. Like I said at the top of the show, he's been woefully inaccurate. He's making poor decisions. He's not looking like a franchise quarterback. He's got to start doing that.
Well, the Bengals,
for the first time in his tenure, Brad, I am concerned that Carson Wentz possibly, maybe, it's in the back of my mind, maybe he's just not as good as we thought he was in 2017. Perhaps peaked in
he may not be. I mean, he may not be. Listen, he had the knee injury. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, he also had he had the issue with his back. So, and then last year he had a concussion. So I mean, he's had 3 tough injuries. When you get that many injuries, maybe some of his skill level is not quite up to snuff anymore. He's had
even though it is in the back of my mind that maybe, possibly, there is a small chance that this guy is not the player we thought he was in 2017, I am not giving up on Carson Wentz. I am not putting in Jalen Hurts for Carson Wentz. I am not putting in Nate Sudfeld for Carson Wentz. Anyone who wants to debate that in the chat with me, go right ahead. You'll lose dearly. Because if you think Carson Wentz is struggling right now, how bad do you think a Nate Sudfeld, who's never really played in this league before, and a rookie project like Jalen Hurts is going to look with a team that, frankly, isn't that talented.
No, they're really not right now. That's the whole point. I mean, if Wentz, the thing is with Wentz, I don't think you're going to see 2017 Wentz again. Okay, but there's no reason why you're not going to see a very good quarterback. I mean, he played at a whole different level in 2017. He played like the best quarterback in the league that year. Okay, he's not the best quarterback in the league anymore. Okay, but he can definitely play like a top 10 quarterback. He has the ability to do that. But it just seems like, it seems like he's kind of like a sitting duck back there. And he's taking some hits, and he's getting a little gun shy. And I think that's a lot of the problem. And then there's the defense, which can't get off the field. I mean, that cannot continue either.
Well, this organization's a blatant disregard for the linebacker position, and that falls on Howie Roseman and Jim Schwartz.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I guess Jim Schwartz has a say in the defensive personnel.
The linebackers are really the ones that are the run stoppers. And you have to have a couple of decent linebackers on your team to stop the run. I mean, the Rams made them look terrible with that running game yesterday. You can't let anybody run for 191 yards. That's inexcusable.
Yeah, and the tight end had 3 touchdowns. Higbee.
Yeah, and as a linebacker,
it's a direct indictment of your linebacking coverage.
Linebackers are supposed to be the ones covering the tight ends because the tight ends are not usually that fast.
And listen, I got news for you. Number 47, Nate Jerry, I want to strap him into a spaceship and send him to Mars. I have no time for this guy. This guy is absolutely terrible. He can't cover. He can't tackle. He's not athletic. He's a special teams player, if that. He's a tweener hybrid 5th-round pick. The fact that you spent a 3rd-round pick on linebacker Davion Taylor and he can't beat out Nate Jerry, an undersized, unathletic tweener linebacker, is a direct indictment of the most hated man, at least in my opinion, in Philadelphia sports, Howie Roseman. This guy can't draft, and he has set this coaching staff and this, what we thought was a good roster, up for failure because he wants to think he's the smartest man in the room and totally neglect the linebacker position. Sean McVay watched tape last week, and he saw number 47, Nate Jerry, on tape, and he saw that he was a liability big time in the coverage game, and he went into attack mode. And that's great work on Sean McVay's fault. Not that it's rocket science to sit there and watch film and realize that Nate Jerry can't play in this league, doesn't have a role in this league, shouldn't be on the field in any situation for any NFL team except for maybe special teams. But, they saw the weakness and they attacked Nate Jerry all day. And the fact that you spent a 3rd-round pick, reached on Davion Taylor out of the Pac-12, he can't even start over Nate Jerry. I mean, what is going on? How bad is your player evaluation when it comes to the draft?
By the way, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside wasn't exactly a big time player yesterday either.
Because he's not a big time player.
No, I mean he was a 2nd-round pick.
I understand that, and
that's another really bonehead pick he made.
And then, I don't know how much of the Sunday night game you watch. I know you have work on Monday mornings, but
no, I didn't watch the Sunday night game.
DK Metcalf, a player who was drafted also in the 2nd round after J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, he's torching Stephon Gilmore, the reigning defensive player in the NFL, for 2 touchdowns, 150 yards receiving. Like, really giving him the business, Brad. So, I don't know. I just – the only person I hold more responsible for this 0-2 start than Carson Wentz, because he's been downright dreadful. Still my quarterback. Not abandoning him, but he's getting crushed today, and rightfully so, is Howie Roseman.
Well, I think Howie Roseman is more the problem. His
Howie Roseman is problems number 1, 2, and 3 with this
drafting the last 3 years has been has been abysmal, to say the least. And that's a bigger problem. That's a bigger problem than anything else right now.
And then
you got to be able to get guys that are used. You can't have second round picks and third round picks that are on your team. I mean, that's how the Giants got in trouble because of that. I mean, if you screw up with your second and third round picks, there's no way you can be competitive, no matter how good your first round pick might be. And Rager looked pretty good yesterday. Rager had a decent day. And actually,
he looks like he belongs in the NFL.
He looks like a player, but just because you hit on your first round pick, you got to hit those first 4 picks that you have. You have to hit on 3 out of 4.
If you want to be good for a long, sustained period of time in this league, yes, it's a hard cap.
First and 4th pick between number 1 and number 4, you got to hit on 3 out of those 4 picks every year if you want to be good. Because every year you're going to lose some players to free agency, and in a cap situation, you have to have young players so you're not spending all your money on free agents. I mean, that's a must.
And then I know I have the reputation here of being a negative Nancy and Negadelphian fan, but I did want to highlight 2 positives I saw yesterday. Yes, I believe there were positives. I thought the offensive line was terrific yesterday. Brad, if I told you last Monday night Aaron Donald would have 1 tackle, you'd probably say the Eagles probably won the game, right?
Well, you had 0 sacks yesterday. I mean, excuse me.
The line played terrific. Aaron Donald had 1 tackle.
The Rams had no sacks yesterday, which would tell you now. Carson took some shots. There was some pressure, but they had no sacks. So, I mean, he was able to get the ball off, but, unfortunately, the Rams really do have a good defense. I mean, let's be honest. That defense has really, really improved this season.
If you want to look for a silver lining, being as a reason that I do see a path to 9 wins and a possible division championship, the offensive line with Lane Johnson was terrific yesterday. I thought Doug called a good game yesterday. I thought Doug did well. I thought Doug moved the pocket. I thought Doug did a great job sticking with Miles Sanders. Despite being down, there was a consistent effort to run the football. He got Carson on the move a few times early in the game. It's not his fault. The team had an execution problem on the offensive side of the ball yesterday. Carson did not.
I would agree with you. And again, defensively, their defense could not get off the field. And that was the problem. I mean, and the Rams, I don't remember the exact statistics, but the Rams had to have the ball about 35 minutes yesterday, right? Maybe more.
Well, when you run for 191 yards,
it seemed like they had the ball almost all day. That's the other problem. How do you expect your quarterback to get into rhythm when you're sitting on the bench the whole time because your defense can't get off the field? That's the other problem. I mean, when your defense starts making stops, then your quarterback gets back in the game and he started looking good. I mean, that's basically what happened with the Giants yesterday, Rob. Daniel Jones couldn't get on the field because in the first quarter and in the first 20 minutes of that game, the Bears had the ball the entire time and they jumped out to a 17-0 lead. I mean, you can't do that. You can't allow the other team to have to possess the ball that long and then expect your quarterback to come out. And if your quarterback happens to have a bad series and goes 3 and out, and then the other team gets the ball and they hang on to it for another 5, 6, 7 minutes, how do you expect your quarterback to get into rhythm when your defense starts stopping the other team all of a sudden? And this goes for the Giants, especially yesterday, when their defense started stopping the Bears. All of a sudden, Daniel Jones looks like a better quarterback because he's getting out there, he's getting into a rhythm, and this is what's has to happen with the Eagles, especially for Carson Wentz. Wentz is a rhythm quarterback, and if he gets out of his rhythm, then he looks erratic, and that's basically what was happening yesterday. They did not possess the ball enough. Their defense couldn't get off the field, and basically, you guys look like the Giants yesterday.
And then my third star,
that's my best description of what I saw when I was watching part of that game.
I thought the running back duo, first off, Miles Sanders, I can't sing his praises enough. He's a terrific running back. He ran the ball hard. I wish he didn't fumble, early in the game there. It set the Rams up with a short field, and they went down 7-0 rather quickly. But he ran the ball well, and this offense is night and day with Miles Sanders and Lane Johnson in the field. Because then you got Boston Scott as a change of pace guy, which is better. So offensive line, running game, and Doug Pederson. I thought all those guys give me reason for hope that there's a path to 9 wins here, and they can win the division and play.
Defense has to pick you up. The defense has to pick you up.
Correct.
Yeah, he can't.
And Carson was terrible. Carson's terrible. He's got to be way better.
Yes, he does. But you know what? Again, we're only talking about 2 games. There was no preseason games. Perhaps he just needed a couple of games. He does have.
Well, he's had them.
I know he has. I'm just saying he has almost all new receivers. That in itself is not easy. So let's see what happens.
Okay. But Brad, it goes back to my point from last week. This guy makes $100 million to be the team leader, to be the franchise quarterback, to overcome adversity, and to get this team in the win column. At what point, at what level of adversity am I supposed to expect him to overcome? And what's the point of no return when it comes to adversity where, okay, he can overcome this much adversity, but not this much? Where's that line? Because it seems like the littlest sign of adversity with this quarterback, with Carson Wentz, it's a loss. If everything's not peaches and cream like it was in 2017, he can't win football games. So, Brad, I'm going to ask you this, and you can answer, and people in the chat can answer. How much adversity is too much of adversity for me to expect my franchise quarterback, the $100 million man, Carson Wentz, my franchise quarterback? All I hear about is how good this guy is and how he's a winner and this, that, and the other. He's going to get us a Super Bowl. How much is too much adversity for him to overcome?
Well, as I said, the defense needs to pick it up. That's number one. Okay? You gave up 27 points to the Redskins. Then you go and you give up – what did you give up yesterday?
37.
37?
Not good, no.
I mean, 27 and 37, that's 64 points in 2 games. That's very un-Eagle-like. And that's a trend that needs to stop and stop immediately. And to be honest with you, the one thing Cincinnati can do is score. So the Eagles' defense better pick it up because Cincinnati can't score. They have no defense. You should have your way with them offensively. And you would think a breakout's coming next week. Anything less than 30 points next week, to me, is a disappointment.
I mean, I thought it couldn't get worse after the loss to the Washington football team, and then I sat down and I watched the game yesterday, and I feel like it got worse.
Well, I think the Rams are just a really good team too. I think that's.
And I agree with that. I picked the Rams to make
a lot of people.
They're going to have a bounce back year this year.
A lot of people are not giving the Rams their due. I mean, that's a good football team. I mean, they did go to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They had the hangover last year, and you know what? But they're back now, and they're back. It seems like with a vengeance.
2-0, and they have a big matchup in Buffalo with the Buffalo Bills next week. So we'll get into that in our early lean segment. All right, Tommy Arnone's in the house. Yo, guys, what's up, Tom? Tom, we're trying to figure it all out. Trying my best to be. I'm mad as hell today that they're 0-2. They should be 1-1 at the least, but I see a path to 9 wins, Tommy. I know I'm Mr. Negativity, Mr. Knee-Jerk Brinkman, but I see a path to 9 wins despite this disastrous start. So to answer our poll question, I do think this team can still win this division. Drew Evo, look at it like this. The Reed McNabb era, 5 years, it started 0-2 and they went 12-4. Yeah, I've been seeing that all day on social media. With all due respect,
I don't think that's happening.
With all due respect to this edition of the Philadelphia Eagles, that 2003 Eagles team was absolutely loaded with talent. They were loaded in the trenches. They were loaded in the secondary. They had a franchise quarterback. They had a 3-headed monster at running back, led by, I believe, a rookie, Brian Westbrook. So I don't know. I can't go there. I can't compare the two because pretty much every aspect of that 2003 team was more talented and better compared to this edition of the Eagles. So, hey, if they want to go rattle off 10 straight like that team did, 12 straight, whatever they did, and finish 12-4 and prove me wrong, go right ahead. I'm all for it. But I just can't go there with that level of positivity. I'm trying my best to be positive, even though I'm mad as hell, but I can't compare those two situations.
Well, they are different.
Joe Horofsky, order of blame, Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman signing tiny wide receivers and quarterback instead of a linebacker. Yeah, and I kind of saw this coming after the 53rd pick in the draft, Brad. I
think everybody saw that. I mean, I remember when he drafted Hurts, I was just going all over social media laughing about that because
that's the kind of pick that really sets you back.
That was the dumbest pick I've ever seen anybody make, to take a second round pick when you've already got a franchise quarterback. I mean, why would you waste a second round pick on a backup quarterback?
Yeah, you need second round picks to step in and play.
Yeah, you need second round picks to be like offensive and defensive linemen, or how about a linebacker? I mean, you've got to improve your team. That's what you need to do. I mean, basically, the guys in the trenches. That's where you need to have the most depth because those are the guys that are always getting hurt all the time, and you got to have depth on those. And the Eagles, quite honestly, I mean, the offensive line looked a lot better yesterday, but their defense just really did not look good.
The offensive line played pretty fantastic yesterday, Brad.
I thought the offensive line was good. No, that's what I'm saying. The offensive line looked good, but the defensive line looked terrible, and that has to change. They can't continue to play like that.
Joseph Horofsky, he also blames injuries. Nate Jerry, Doug Pederson, which I don't. Yeah, you can bury Doug for Washington because I don't think he called a very good game in Washington, but I thought Doug was fine yesterday. The Eagles have an execution problem on offense, not a coaching problem. I thought Doug was fine yesterday. And I like to kill Doug as much as the next guy. I think the only guy who kills Doug Pederson more at A2D radio is Greg Milakovic than me. But I haven't, even though I haven't called him Dummy Doug yet. Not once. Not once. And I did it all the time last year because I thought Doug had a horrible season last year. But through 2 games, the Dummy Doug phrase has not come out of my mouth. And he didn't do anything.
He did make some adjustments.
He did. He stuck with the run.
Yeah, he made some
adjustments. The run yesterday.
He changed some things up. But you're right. The problem with them is they just didn't execute yesterday. And again, you have a defense problem right now.
Justin Hart.
See what ends up happening.
Justin Hart checking in. Could they? Yes, in terms of the poll question. Could they win the division, make the playoffs? Yes, but at this point, do we even really want them to lose first round due to the same problems from 3 years ago? Yes, playoffs are always – making the playoffs is always better than not making the playoffs. This isn't the NBA where tanking can serve a purpose. You can get good players in every position of the NFL draft. You don't tank in football.
No.
Speaking of Greg Milakovic, this team stinks. Disagree to the poll. It's going to be a struggle. Look, and it looks bad right now. And like you said at the top of the show, a win against the Bengals next week does not fix everything. Isn't going to make me come on here next Monday and think that everything is back to being peaches and cream and this team's the favorite to win the NFC East like I thought they were preseason. They got to at least go on a 2-game win streak, beat the Bengals, and go into San Fran and win.
Well, the one break that they get next week is that the Cowboys have to go to Seattle to play the Seahawks. And you kind of doubt very seriously that the Cowboys are going to go into Seattle and win that game. I mean, I think Russell Wilson will have an absolute field day with that defense.
The Cowboys defense isn't good.
No, it's. I mean, their defense is as bad as the Eagles. The only thing is their offense can make up for it because they've got a lot of weapons. But I don't see the Cowboys going into Seattle. So I mean, if the Eagles do it there, if they hold serve and at least beat Cincinnati, you could probably anticipate that the Cowboys are going to lose to Seattle. The only thing is, though, remember you're going to have to play Seattle too. It's not like you're going to get off the hook there. And my team, you think they faced two good defenses the first 2 weeks of the season? Well, they have.
Yeah.
But what? Next week it's San Francisco, so it goes from miserable to even more miserable for the Giants playing good defenses. I mean, it's going to be tough for them. I mean, without Barkley, I don't know how they're going to score points against that San Francisco defense. Boy, oh boy.
Drew Evo. Jim never adjusts. The single high safety was beat by the bootleg. Look, my criticisms of Jim Schwartz are the same tonight as they've been the last, 3 years, 4 years, however long he's been the defensive coordinator. He has what he does, and he doesn't deviate from it, no matter what. Doesn't matter that Tyler Higbee's got 2 touchdowns. He's not changing his strategy of putting Nate Jerry on him until he's just not going to change. Either his scheme's going to work or you're going to get torched. And this is why that I think that I'm not really that big of a Jim Schwartz guy, even though I do have to give him credit because his defenses do have a tendency to peak in November and December when you really got to make a run and it's time to make the playoffs. Anthony Addy's Bengals will beat Philly. I'm not going to say that's impossible, but I think the early line being 6.5 in favor of the Eagles kind of tells you all you need to know about what they think of this matchup. Fly Eagles fly, Temple U. Cowboys aren't winning 10 games, and the Birds are not spanking any team. Okay. I think 9 wins this division.
Well, I tell you what, next week is going to be a very interesting week for the Washington football team. Okay? They're going to have an interesting test. How good are they really? Okay? They play the Browns next week in Cleveland.
Yes.
Okay? That, to me, is going to tell you what that team is really all about. I think the Cardinals, I think you hit the nail right on the head with the Cardinals when you were picking at the beginning of the season. That team is beastly. Murray is tremendous. To get those receivers now. Fitzgerald, God bless him, he finally has a guy to work with who's better than him on the other side. That offense just looks tremendous, and they're explosive. And Kyler Murray, when he runs the ball, he's like Lamar Jackson back there. He can really move the ball. The only thing I worry about with him is he is small. And if he takes a hit running that football and doesn't get out of bounds, that could be a problem. That's the only thing I worry about with him. But that team is going to be just a big pain in the ass this year for anybody who has to play them. Now, again, the Redskins playing the Browns. I think that's the most interesting game on the schedule next week because if you're an NFC East fan. You want to know how good the Redskins are? Let's see what happens when they play the Browns. They're like a stepping stone kind of team. If you can't beat the Browns, you're not a playoff team.
Yeah.
Okay? If you beat the Browns, okay, you proved you can beat a decent football team on the road. Okay, so let's see what happens there. But I'll tell you what, there are some really good games next week. Have you seen the schedule?
Yeah, we're going to go through it, too. I want to buzz through some of these comments, and we got
some real good games.
The Monday Night Football game is underway. Football debuting in Las Vegas. The Saints have the ball. We'll keep you updated on that. I know we missed kickoff. We kind of missed our little preview that we like to do, but I do like the Saints minus 6.5 tonight.
Oh, yeah, I do, too. Even without Michael Thomas. They're just –
the Raiders 2-0. Let's pump the brakes. Let's slow down. Derek Carr stinks. They played the Panthers, a rebuilding team, in week 1, and they were put up 30 points. Let's relax on the Raiders being 2-0. Could they cover the spread? I suppose, but
first game in Vegas. But you know what the problem is? There are no fans in the building. If they were playing at home and you had 80,000 screaming fans, I could see them covering the spread. Because they'd be all excited about playing in their new stadium, yada 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 yada. And I could see that. But with no fans in the building, I'll tell you what, Carson was lucky yesterday there were no fans in the building. because the Eagles would have been booed.
The entire 55-man roster, how many they dress these days, are lucky there were no fans in the building.
Yeah, they would have been unmercifully booed yesterday.
I mean, you could feel. I mean, whatever technology they have set up to pump the crowd noise in. I mean, you could hear the boos on that. So I shudder to think what they would have been like.
Oh, jeez.
With 80,000 screaming fans.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of the Cardinals game yesterday with the Redskins. I'll tell you what, they did a really good job. The whoever does the fan noise, because every time there was a call a questionable call with the Cardinals, I mean, they had those boo birds out in full bloom. I mean, in baseball, you don't usually hear the fans booing. You just hear the crowd noise, and then you hear a little uptick when something happens. But I can at least say in Arizona, when the Cardinals had some bad calls against them, they had the boo birds out in full bloom.
You said, Jake Friel, what's up, boys? I disagree with the poll. I don't see the Eagles even beating the Bengals on Sunday. Sadly, I have them going 0-6 down the stretch. Like, Jake, come on, bud. Like, I can't go there. I can't go with this 1-5 talk. I can't go with this 1-6 talk, because then the season's over before Thanksgiving. Well before Thanksgiving, it's over before Halloween, and me being tabbed as Mr. Negative, even I can't go down that road. I think, and I'm going to try and go through this time permitting, because we got some baseball to get to, and we got Monday Night Football. We got a lot to get to. We have big announcement regarding next week's show. From a baseball standpoint. So we had a lot to get to. We're going to buzz through these comments and get to some of that. Carson Wentz needs a real coach that will fix him, because Doug destroyed him, and the Eagles need to fire Doug and his coaching staff and bring in a coach like Jim Harbaugh or John Gruden to fix him. Okay.
Jim Harbaugh, huh?
Relax. Relax. First off, John Harbaugh
is not going anywhere. Okay.
He coaches the Ravens, and he's not going anywhere. He's done a tremendous job developing Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens aren't going to let him go.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, he has the pick of the litter of all these 5-star recruits, and he still can't find one. Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, he stinks. They can't beat Ohio State ever. They can't even beat Penn State. They can hardly beat Michigan State. You want to have him coach the Philadelphia Eagles and develop Carson? He's never developed a quarterback in his coaching career ever. He can't recruit a quarterback worth shit. You want to fire Doug for Jim Harbaugh? Are you okay? Are you kidding me?
You do know that his quarterbacks in San Francisco weren't exactly Johnny Unitas and
no, he caught lightning in a bottle with Colin Kaepernick, and he went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because that year Colin Kaepernick was running with the football, and the league hadn't adjusted to him yet. When they figured out how to stop him, he was ineffective. When they made him sit in the pocket and have to throw the ball, he was not accurate enough. And
I like to get on Doug as much as the next guy for his flaws, but I don't care if this team goes 0-16. I'm not firing Doug.
They're not going to go 0-16.
I know. I'm just saying, if they do go 0-16, I'm not firing Doug. Maybe some of his assistants got to go. Maybe Jim Schwartz has got to go. But you go 0-16, then if you go 2 straight years without making the playoffs, then we'll talk about making a coaching change. And for damn sure, I'm not bringing in Jim Harbaugh. No shot.
He's not. No, he wouldn't be. I don't think that's the answer at all. I mean, he's just not. That guy is not the answer at all.
John Malmos, the Eagles finished 4-12, 5-11 at best. Stop talking playoffs. This garbage has been constructed by Howie and should not be. And he should be canned for this. No shot in winning the division. Pleased with the excuses. Everyone said this staff had been together longer and should be better. No one's making excuses, Sean. I'm crushing everybody right now. But the Eagles, the saving grace for this football team is the NFC East stinks. And I do see a path to 9 wins.
The only problem is, okay, maybe they win the division, but they're not going to beat anybody in the playoffs right now.
No, and I said that before the season. A playoff win for this team would be an extremely successful season.
Absolutely. I mean, I think to win the division might be a successful season right now, to be honest with you. I mean, as as I said, you look at the rest of the league. Okay, Minnesota's 0-2, which is a little surprising right now.
They stink.
Yeah, they have not played well at all. So I mean, they must be very concerned there.
Their secondary is Swiss cheese, and Kirk Cousins played awful yesterday.
Yes, he did, and Green Bay has looked very good. The Bears are looking a lot better this year than they did last year.
Defense talks, Brad. I tried telling them they were one of my sleeper teams coming.
Well, having Akeem Hicks back is pretty important because that guy defensively kind of sets the tone. I mean, obviously, we know that they have who they have on their team. They got some great pass rushers. You know, we know that, but he was injured last year, and now he's back. And that team just looks like it's going to create havoc defensively on everybody. And, that team can easily make the playoffs and have a better record than the Eagles. I mean, let's be honest, and also remember that they have a third place schedule. So they're not playing the beasts of the league. You know, they're going to get, who are they going to get in the NFC Central? Or not the NFC Central, in the NFC South. They're not going to get
the Saints, the Bucks, the Panthers, and the Falcons. The Panthers and the Falcons stink. The Bucks are kind of good, and the Saints are loaded.
Right, but they're going to get one of those teams. So I mean, I guess they play each other, don't they? If we play the West, then those two divisions play each other. So I mean, they're going to get 3 out of 4 in that division easily. They won't beat the Saints, but they'll beat the other 3 teams.
Michael Black, how do you not draft Metcalf instead of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? I don't understand how you can draft any Pac-12 prospect over an SEC prospect. I don't get it. It's just better. It's just a different breed down there. It's a different breed of college football down there in the South than it is out West.
In the South, those are future professional football players, okay? Out in the West, those are just college football players. Those are kids that are going to college to play football. The kids in the Southeast Conference are going to college to play football to prepare themselves to play in the NFL. Okay, that's
their major. That's their major. Yeah, you get the Pac-12 nerd losers that they want to be the well-rounded individual. That's fine. If you have a daughter, guess what? You want him to bring home a Pac-12 athlete, not an SEC athlete. That's the well-rounded guy. It's the 4.0 GPA guy. That's the biochemical engineer. And he's an academic All-American, and he's going to get picked in the second, third round of the draft. That's great. That's all fine and good. You get those SEC blue blood football players. They don't go to class. They major in football.
Yeah, no, they're born to be football players. They're born.
They breathe. They live, breathe, sweat.
They go to the Southeast
in the NFL.
Rob, they go to the Southeast Conference to play football against the best because they want to play against the best and prove they're the best so they can play in the NFL. That's why.
Fred, I would bet you that Alabama's second string would beat Stanford's first string by about 30 points.
Yeah, probably. They probably would. I mean, it is what it is, Rob. I mean, you could say the same thing. You could say the same thing about Georgia. I mean, Clemson is in that package.
Whatever SEC team you want to pick.
I know Clemson is an ACC team, right?
That's correct. But
okay. I mean, but they be just as good if they were in the. They could play in the Southeast with any one of those teams too.
Yeah, they have the number 1 recruiting class every year. They get more 5-star recruits than the SEC schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
A terrific recruiter. We got a bunch of pointing out the schedule: Saints, Packers, Seahawks, Steelers, Niners, Cardinals. Which of those are we winning? You got to steal one of them. I think you got to steal at San Fran. I think somehow you have. I think somehow you have to steal the Ravens game at home or at the Steelers. You got to get to 3-3. You got to get to 3-3 through 6.
The problem,
3 through 6 games.
Right.
I think that there's a legitimate path to 9 wins.
the problem with playing the 49ers, and I know you're optimistic that they might beat the 49ers, but the 49ers can run the football. And if you can't stop the Rams, you're going to have a problem trying to stop the 49ers too, because that's their game. And that's the game they play. And Seattle, they're going to have a hard time with. I mean, listen, it's going to be tough for them now. They really put themselves in a tough position because that Washington game. Had they won the Washington game, then you could almost excuse them losing to the Rams. But losing that Washington game, they had basically 5 games in their schedule that you were expecting a win against. Okay, you were expecting 2 wins against the Giants, you're expecting 2 wins against the Redskins, and you're expecting a win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, now it's down to 4, and God forbid if you stub your toe again against one of those teams, now you got to sweep Dallas, or you've got to. You gotta beat Green Bay, or you're gonna have to beat one of those Western Division teams, and that's asking a lot from this group.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Eagles have kind of backed themselves into a corner into going 5-1 in the division, which means a clean sweep the rest of the way.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to sweep the Cowboys. I mean,
it's not impossible though.
No, but I think they're going to split like they usually do with them. And they better watch out when they play the Giants. They better show up and play.
Philly 0024 rebuild is going to probably be mandatory after the season. With us being $80 million over the cap, there's going to be some big names leaving like Cox, Ertz, and if Wentz continues to struggle, him too. I'll worry about that in the offseason. I'm 2 games in.
Okay, so we're saying that the Eagles are going to give me in tear down mode. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm 2 games in. I still see a path to 9 wins. I still see a path to a division championship. I'm not ready to talk about the offseason and some of the tough decisions that are going to have to be made based on Howie's cap maneuvering over the past couple years, which is supposed to be a genius at. But I look at the numbers next year, them being $80 million over the cap, and it doesn't look like a genius to me.
How many million are they over the cap next year?
A lot. I don't know if it's 80 million. That's what the comments said, but I don't know if it's.
I don't think they're 80 million. That's going to be. No, there's no way they're going to be that. I thought that they were maybe 2 or 3 million under the cap going into next year, which of course would mean that they're going to have to, get rid of some guys that they may not want to get rid of. That could be true.
Joseph Forsky, Doug overcorrected though. Week 1 called nothing but fly routes. Week 2, he didn't take any shots down the field. Yeah, he didn't take any shots down the field. That's also why Carson Wentz stayed upright the whole game. That's why you had long sustained drives. Deshaun Jackson, for whatever reason, he's on a pitch count. Your ex-receiver, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, can't get off the ball. He can't get off press coverage. He can't get open. He can't catch the ball. He can't make any plays. And, you can't really throw the ball downfield with your tight ends.
That's the problem.
To be used like that. So I don't know where you think this team's taking shots at. They took a bunch of ill-advised shots with subpar players like John Hightower and Quez Watkins and those types of guys in week 1, and it didn't work at all. I had no problems with Doug's game plan yesterday. 0. They had an execution problem at the quarterback position yesterday, and that's the main reason they lost the football game. It's also the main reason they lost the football game in Washington. So I can't really criticize Doug. There's a lot wrong with this football team. I don't think Doug Pederson's offensive game plan against the Los Angeles Rams was one of them. Eagles suck, period. Crush, crush, crush. That's Mike Parker. Jim doesn't know how to bring the best out of his defensive players. He needs to get better at adjusting, and God forbid he would throw in a blitz every once in a while. Brian Joseph, Jalen Hurts was drafted for a reason in the second round. Stop buying the nonsense that it wasn't. Eagles took Kolb in the second round to replace McNabb. The Eagles had concerns. I mean, I guess we'll see. If Carson keeps making poor decisions and turning the football over, they're right to have concerns. More comparisons to 2003. Look,
I don't think they're as talented as that 2003 team, guys.
I agree with you.
I mean,
I agree with you.
they are not at that level right now. They did right now. I mean, honestly, the first, if you're just going to go by the first 2 weeks of the season, they look to me like a 6-10, 7-9 football team right now. Okay, and that's just the fact. Okay, maybe they'll pick it up and they'll start playing better, which they should. I mean, they should beat Cincinnati. That's a game that they have to win, especially with what's coming up on their schedule after that. I mean,
Yeah, and Mike Parker brings up a good. When the Eagles draft, McNabb was over 30 years of age when they drafted Kevin Kolb to be the heir apparent. Now, obviously, that didn't work out. And Vic came in, and he was the heir apparent until Foles came in, and then he eventually segued into Wentz. But yeah, McNabb was much older than Carson Wentz when the Kevin Kolb fiasco went down, which I hated. I hated that pick too. I almost forgot about Kevin Kolb. What a disaster that was.
yeah, he did not work out, and then they dumped him on. But didn't they get a first round pick for him when they traded him, or was it a second round pick?
I forget what they traded because they traded AJ Feely. They traded him for a second round pick, and he was no good. I don't remember what happened to Kevin Kolb because I think he went to Arizona.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Got traded to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
said St. Louis, didn't I? He got traded to the Cardinals for. I think he got a first. They got a first or a second round pick for him.
You might be right. I don't think it was a 1.
It was probably a 2 then. But I mean, if you got a 2 for him, they ended up doing okay with that. By the way, the Saints are ahead 3-0, and they're on the.
Yeah, they're in the goal line.
Yeah, they're on the goal line.
I hope Traquan Smith can get in the end zone here so I can win my DraftKings first touchdown bet.
Well, did you see the reception he just had just now?
Yeah, I was hoping he punched it in.
Yeah, well, yeah, he almost did.
$5 on my $5.
Well, he might because he and Drew Brees are talking right now, so it looks like the Saints just took a timeout. So this game right now, I mean, is kind of, as far as the Raiders are concerned, they better not let the Saints get in the end zone right now, because if you're behind 10-0 to Drew Brees and this team, and they start getting on an offensive roll, the Raiders do not have the defense to keep these guys under control. I mean, that could be a disastrous homecoming for them.
Yeah, and like I said, I really like the Saints in this game. I saw a lot of so-called sharps on social media thinking the Raiders would step up with their first game in Las Vegas, but
there's no fans there.
I'm just not buying it.
Same thing. That's
Kamara getting the edge. Did he get there? I don't think he got there, Brad.
Got to the 1, so it's 2nd and goal on the 1. So, and somebody on the Raiders is hurt.
All right, Brad, let's move on. Let's talk some baseball because we got some breaking programming news when it comes to baseball. We are going to have some special guests next week.
We're going to have our buddy Greg Pryor back, and he is going to be handicapping the playoffs next week. And we may have a surprise guest. Greg is also going to be doing podcasts with a former catcher of the Texas Rangers, Jim Sundberg, a 3-time All-Star, a 6-time Gold Glover. And for you fans that aren't old enough to know who he is, this is a guy who won 6 Gold Gloves in an era in baseball where the 2 catchers who reigned supreme in the American League were Thurman Munson and Carlton Fisk. So think about that one for a minute. Okay, now he wasn't the hitter, but that gentleman is going to be his podcast partner. We don't know if he's going to come on with Greg, but Greg is going to be coming on. So
we're trying for the double dip.
Yeah, if we can get both of them, not. But Greg has definitely agreed to come on, and Greg was a lot of fun last time, and I'm sure Greg used to play for the White Sox, so I'm sure he can give us a lot of depth on the White Sox. Because I don't know about you guys, but I haven't watched any White Sox games this year, so I have no idea other than the fact that they look like a great team, and their leadoff hitter, what's his name, Tim Anderson. That guy.
A lot of offensive guys.
Yeah,
the American League playoffs are going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be a lot of fun. A lot of young upstart teams, a lot of young talent getting their feet wet with their first postseason experience. So it'll be fun to have Greg Pryor on, a 1985 World Series champion with the Kansas City Royals. Going to do a little, we're a stray away from football. We're going to be doing an MLB playoff roundtable show. Maybe get some of the A2D personalities in the mix. We'll have Greg Pryor. Hopefully we'll have James Sundberg. And hopefully as the playoffs move on, we can also dip back into some of our other baseball guests that we had during the quarantine. But, Brad, it certainly looks like your Yankees. It looks like their struggles are behind them. They clinched a playoff spot. Looks like they're going to be in that 4-5 matchup. But
they're not doing themselves any favors tonight because Aaron Boone, as always, thinks rest is more important than winning. So he went and didn't.
But, I mean, Brad, you've clinched. You've clinched the playoffs.
Yeah, but don't we want to have home field against the Twins?
What's the difference?
You really think that the Yankees hit a lot better at home than they do on the road?
Okay. But, I mean, if you could have fans there, I could see the argument for that.
That's true. I mean, honestly, I could see your point, but to give away a game tonight when they supposedly want to get home field advantage, just that didn't make sense to me at all. I kind of don't understand it, But a lot of people in New York back Boone. I know I kill Boone because I hate Boone. I think he's one of the stupidest guys I've ever seen manage a baseball team. He cost the Yankees 2 years ago against Boston by not making sure Luis Severino was in the bullpen warming up before a game. And then last year, he pitches in the ninth inning to Jose Altuve with runners on second and third and 2 outs in the ninth inning with Jake Marisnick on deck. I mean, excuse me, but don't you walk Altuve? And I've been, every time I argue with a Yankee fan about how bad a manager he is, nobody ever has an answer for that. They poo-poo it like, oh, but it's okay to screw up in the playoffs as long as your team wins 100 games. You know what? He gives away way too many games with this injury, with this rest crap. Everybody rests. Nobody plays. I mean, it's ridiculous. The whole team's been injured. They're coming back. They needed bats. These guys, a lot of these guys haven't been playing and they needed bats. Let them play.
Brad, one guy I've been really impressed with, and one guy I can really kind of attribute this turnaround for, I believe the Yankees won 10 straight games, is Luke Voit. I mean, this guy's the American League MVP.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hope so. After I saw Abreu's stats, it's going to be tough for him to top Abreu. But I'll tell you what, Luke Voit has been tremendous. He hit home run number 21 yesterday. I mean, in a loss. But, I mean, he's been just unbelievable this year. 21. Think about it. 21 home runs in, 52 games?
That's unbelievable.
I mean, you and I were talking about it. Will anybody hit 20 home runs this year in a 60-game schedule? I mean, Luke Voit has a chance. Nobody in 60 games, nobody in the history of baseball has ever hit more than 24 home runs, I believe. I think I just read that. I just read that on the internet that the best ever 60-game start in baseball history was 24, and I think Babe Ruth did it. And I'm trying to remember who the other guys were. Jimmy Fox.
Got to be a heavy hitter.
Yeah, it was. I think Ruth, Fox, and there was one other guy in the 70s that did it. I can't remember who it was, but I mean it was Mickey Mantle. It was Mickey Mantle the year that in 61. So I mean, it's unbelievable what he's done this year for them, and he's hitting 288 to boot, which that's a very respectable average. But I mean, Abreu's hitting like 330, and he's got 18 home runs, and he leads the league in RBIs. I mean, it's hard not to vote for him. I mean, the best player on the best team, I guess. But Abreu has a lot of help. Voit has kind of done it on his own because there were times this year when the Yankees had nobody in that lineup except him, and he carried them.
Now, do you consider the Yankees the favorite? Look, the Saints here going for 2. Wow, Kamara walks in. They go up 11-0.
Of course they got it. They're the Mr. Perfect team right now.
They are. There is a flag on the play. We'll see what's going on there. But Sean McVay rolling the dice.
Well, if there's a flag, you know what? Then they'll end up then they'll end up kicking the extra point. I mean, it's not really,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what'll end up happening. But yeah, I mean, look, the New Orleans Saints are one of the best teams in football. They have been for years. I've been saying it this year. It's put up or shut up. If they don't win this year, this may be their last chance because Drew Brees is getting old. And I mean, how long can you expect this team to stay at the level they've been at the last 2 years? I mean, it's gotta end at some point. So I mean,
I have the bracket going into today for the MLB. We're starting the American League, and we'll kind of talk it out, see what. Here's the American League. So the number 1 seed, the Tampa Bay Rays, they're going to face the number 8 seed. It's going into today as of Monday, September 21st. Obviously, there's still a week left, so things can jockey around a little bit.
They'd be playing the Blue Jays because it looks like the Blue Jays are pretty much it'd be very hard for them to lose to get ahead of the 8 seed.
It seems like the 8 teams in the American League are pretty much set.
Yeah, the order is pretty much set too. Actually, if you look at it, because it's very unlikely that much is going to change. The only thing that could change really is the top 3. I think the bottom 5 are pretty much going to be as it is. Boone made no effort to win the game tonight for the Yankees. Now they're getting clobbered as they decided to push Cole and everybody else back a day and use the bullpen. And not even use their good pitchers from the bullpen, use their garbage pitchers. So the result is going to be ugly tonight. But they should come in 5th. They'll be playing the Twins, who they normally beat without a problem. You'd like to see the Yankees come in 4th and get the games at home, but as you said, Rob, most likely they should be able to beat the Twins whether they play them in Minnesota or New York. So,
no, I would favor Tampa Bay over Toronto. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay's pitching will stop Toronto.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a best of 3 series, and then you got Glasnow and Snell in the first 2 games. I mean, that's pretty
right. And the Blue Jays, I mean, their pitching has been very disappointing this year. So, and the Saints unfortunately had lost their 2-point conversion, so they had to settle for 1, which they got. So it's now 10-0 Saints, and they're kicking off.
Now, the number 2 seed in the American League is the Chicago White Sox.
Right, and they would be playing the Cleveland Indians.
That's correct. And unfortunately, the Indians, Shane Bieber can't pitch every time out. So I think the White Sox are going to advance there.
The White Sox have owned the Indians this year.
I mean, the White Sox have owned pretty much everyone. I mean, Moncada and Abreu is an MVP candidate.
Anderson has a chance to win his 2nd consecutive batting title. I mean,
Giolito has been awesome.
Yeah, I mean that team is playing on a very, very high level, and if they get to play the team in the Central Division, I think it's going to be hell to pay for whoever has to deal with that. Then the 3rd team is
Oakland.
So Oakland would play Houston.
I really like this.
Oakland has owned Houston this year.
I really like Oakland a lot.
Well, the only problem with Oakland is, as you know, they lost their first baseman for the season.
Well, they lost Chapman, the third baseman.
I'm sorry. Chapman.
Yeah, Olsen's killing it. They have a tremendous bullpen.
Yeah, Chapman has been a big time hitter for them, but they have enough offense. But they're pitching.
Yeah, I just love the way the A's are set up for postseason baseball.
Yeah, they're going to be a tough team to have to deal with.
And I mean, all due respect to the defending champ, Houston.
Well, other than Greinke,
I don't think they get past.
Other than Greinke, who's going to pitch for them?
No one.
And who's in the bullpen for them? I mean, they're under 500 right now, and the only reason they're in the playoffs is because they play A, in a garbage division, and B, they play in a garbage division. There's nobody else that could challenge them. So, I mean, if they were in any other division, even if they were in the National League, they wouldn't even get there. But you know what? They're in the American League West, which has been absolutely destroyed by the National League West. So, that's how it is right now.
And then you have your Yankees playing the Twins. I don't really see that being a problem for the Yankees.
No,
And
the Twins do not
they
have
own the Twins.
Twins don't have the pitching to be able to keep the Yankees down. And I think Gary Cole at the top of the rotation, and then you have Tanaka, and you know who else has really come along this year is Jay Happ. He has really pitched well, so I would expect him to be the number 3 pitcher. With Montgomery moving to the pen and Davy Garcia, we'll see if he's on. We'll see if he's able to make the rotation. I would think that he's probably going to be playing in the second round, because in the second round there's no days off in the second round. First round, it's 3 straight games, and obviously you're going to use your top 3 there. Going to have the American League start Tuesday of next week. National League starts Wednesday, but everybody's playing 3 games in a row.
Sets up well for our MLB playoff roundtable.
Yeah, and I to be honest with you, I can't imagine the Yankees not winning the American League this year. I just can't. They have no excuses right now. I mean, they have enough pitching. They certainly have as good a lineup, arguably or better than any team in the American League. And their bullpen, when the guys are going good, that bullpen is awfully good. So I mean, I just can't imagine that if they can't make the World Series this year, that it's going to be a huge disappointment.
I can't disagree. It's kind of the same. They're kind of the New Orleans Saints of the MLB. I mean, you can't do it this year. I mean, when are you going to do it? You brought in Cole. That was supposed to be the missing link. I mean, what more do you?
Unfortunately for them, they lost Severino. That was it. They lost Severino, and they lost. They lost what's his name, Paxton. Those are 2 tough losses for your starting rotation. But I mean, they still, if you look at it, Hap's been very good. Tanaka's been very good. There's no reason with Cole on top that they shouldn't be a very, very tough team to have to play. Nobody's going to want to play them. I mean, you know that.
No.
So I just can't imagine what's going to happen there. In the National League, it gets interesting.
Well, the Phillies are hanging on for dear life. They're currently 7th in the National League playoffs. They have one of the wild cards temporarily locked down. They are down 3-1 to the Washington Nationals in the top of the 7th. This would be a tragic loss because one of their co-aces, Zach Wheeler, was on the mound, and this is a bad start to the final week of the season if they were to lose this baseball game, Brad, because you had it set up perfect for the stretch run. You have Wheeler Monday, you had Nola tomorrow, and then Saturday, Sunday, you have Wheeler, Nola again. So 4 of your remaining games out of your remaining 6 games.
Give your manager some credit for setting it up like that.
Out of 6 games, yeah, but I mean, it's like Doug's game plan yesterday. He had a good game plan, I thought, but I mean, Phillies are having an execution problem tonight. It doesn't help that JT Realmuto has a hit pointer and hasn't played in a week and a half.
You also don't have your first baseman either, and that's
Hoskins is out. Yeah,
that's a really, really bad loss.
They were able to avoid disaster with Bryce Harper. He left yesterday's game with a back injury. He's in there as the DH tonight. But I mean, I just pray that I want to see them in the playoffs. I really do, because I think that, Brad, if you can get a 3-game series with Nola and Wheeler pitching 2 of those 3 games, maybe one of them has to go on short rest. I'm not sure how that's going to set up with them pitching the last 2 games of the regular season.
How far are they behind the Marlins, by the way?
Well, they had a 7-game series with the Marlins about a week ago, and they lost 6 of the 7 games.
But how far behind are they right now from the Marlins? How many games behind?
They are 1 game back in the law. They're a game back.
Okay. Do you know who the Marlins have to play the last 3 games of the season?
I can look at it right now.
I can tell you who they have to play. They have to play the Bronx Bombers in Yankee Stadium. Okay, and the Yankees are going to be trying to win because they want to get home field advantage against the Twins. So, I guess backing everybody up, That gets Cole in there on Sunday if the Yankees need the game. Although I kind of doubt they're going to pitch Cole on Sunday when the playoffs start Tuesday. That would be
all seven of Miami's games are on the road. They have 4 at Atlanta and 3 at New York.
They're not going to make the playoffs. That's impossible.
They
can lose.
I mean, they've been a pesky bunch the whole year.
Yeah, but they're going to go 2-5 in those games. I mean, I can't see them.
I hope so, but I've been waiting for them to fall off all season, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, but now they're playing 2 of the top teams in baseball.
Understand, brother? But
well, in the standings, yeah. I mean,
I understand that
they're playing a first place team and a second place team, who's now healthy and would have been a first place team if they stayed healthy. So I mean,
the Phillies are they have the Nationals for 4, and then they're at Tampa. So all 7 of their games are on the road as well.
Well, the Nationals, they should find a way to beat the Nationals.
I know, but they're not tonight.
It's not going to be easy against Tampa Bay, though. That's going to be tough. That's a really good team, and they're tough as hell to beat at home.
And Brad, the story of the stretch run here in the National League is the Cincinnati Reds. They've won 7 of 8 games. They've maneuvered themselves into the last and final 8 seed in the playoffs. And Brad, a 3-game series where you got to face Luis Castillo, Trevor Bauer, and Sonny Gray.
Is Sonny Gray going to be pitching, or is he hurt?
He should be back. He was a little nicked up there in the beginning, but
I thought he was on the DL. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was on the DL, but
I think he's back.
But even having to play against Trevor Bauer and Luis Castillo is really asking a lot. That's tough.
And then they're going to be matched up. If they do hold on to the 8 seed, the Dodgers have the best record in baseball. They're going to be playing against the Dodgers in the first round. That's a tough draw for the Dodgers. If I were the Dodgers, I'd much rather be playing the Phillies or the Marlins than I would the Cincinnati Reds. Reds have way more talent.
Oh, I agree with you. I think the Reds have kind of underperformed for the most part this season, but they've definitely got it together. I mean, if it was a 162-game schedule, they would have eventually won the division because they got it together now. But being that it's a 60, they're gonna get in. They're gonna squeeze in. You know what? The Dodgers, you're right. They're gonna have a tough time if they have to play the Reds.
I think they'll win just because they're loaded. And they score so many runs with Mookie Betts added to that already potent offense.
Oh, yeah, and they got good pitching.
Yeah, Buehler's back. They have Kershaw. I know Kershaw has his issues in the playoffs, but the Dodgers are a really good team. Pretty good bullpen.
Yeah, I mean they're still the team to beat in the National League.
Without
question. San Diego, I think, is the second best team in the National League.
I don't know. I think San Diego is set up well.
Yeah, I think they're the second best team in the National League right now.
Great bullpen. They have great starting pitching. They have a great offense. They have the best player in the game right now, for my money, in Fernando Tatis. I would consider the San Diego Padres the favorite in the National League. All due respect to what the Dodgers have done all year and all the talent they have over there, but I picked the Padres to win the World Series at the beginning of the season in the quarantine, and I'm not backing off it now. I think they're really good.
Now they've got a legitimate ace on the team with Clevenger, so at least they have somebody to match the other teams. I just don't know
about Dinelson Lamet. Dinelson Lamet. He's a strikeout machine. He has an ERA right around 2, and he has a WHIP right around 1. What more do you want? They have 2 aces. There's no way they lose that 3-game series.
The only problem for the Padres is the lack of playoff experience, and they're going to be going up against some. The Dodgers do have experience, although they choke a lot. Lately, they've been waiting for the World Series to choke.
These matchups, these matchups are, again, these don't take into account the games that are happening right now. So you have the Dodgers taking on the Reds. I wish the Reds won more games in the regular season so they weren't the 8 seed and have to take on the Dodgers, because I love the Reds. I think they have a lot of talent. And
They're the 8th seed. They're not ahead of the Giants yet.
yeah, the Giants are not in the playoffs right now.
The Giants are okay. So it's the Phillies. So the Phillies and the Reds are the 7 and 8 teams.
That's correct. And then you have still a lot to be determined here because you have San Francisco and Milwaukee.
Right.
A game back of the 8 seed.
And St. Louis is hanging on for dear life as well.
But you also have to remember the Cardinals have 2 extra games to play, I believe, still because of all the games they missed because of COVID.
Yeah, they're going to have back. They're going to have 2 doubleheaders this week.
Right.
But that's not good. That means they're probably going to end up splitting them. And I mean, I don't know if that's good or not. I mean, splitting might actually
because there's still much to be determined in the National League. The Phillies and the Marlins really, well, one of them's got to make it because the top 2 in each division make it. So one of the Phillies and Marlins are going to make it, but it wouldn't surprise.
I didn't realize the Phillies have to play Tampa Bay the last 3 games. I mean, that's as bad as Miami having to play in Yankee Stadium the last 3 games. So that's good. That kind of balances it out a little bit.
So you have the Cubs. I don't know how the Cubs are doing this as the 2 seed in the National League because Chris Bryant's been hurt and not performing up to his pedigree. Javier Baez has been not living up to his pedigree. Anthony Rizzo hasn't been that good. Really, the only thing they got going for him is Yu Darvish is a front runner for the National League Cy Young.
Yu Darvish has had a tremendous year.
He's turned back the clock.
Yeah, he's been the backbone of that team. But I mean, I'll tell you what, they got their heads handed to them by the Twins this weekend, the Cubs. So I
don't think the Cubs are that good.
No, they're not.
Like right now, the Phillies are the 7th seed playing the Cubs in the first round. I think the Phillies take them out.
They could.
I mean, you get past Darvish. I mean, who's their second starter? John Lester? Not scared of John Lester anymore.
Lester's okay, but I mean, he's not an ace anymore. And the rest of their staff is what Kyle. What's his name? Hendricks?
Kyle Hendricks. He's okay.
He's okay, but I mean, he's not exactly going to scare anybody. I mean, he's okay, and that's about it. I think you guys match up pretty favorably against anybody except the Padres and the Dodgers.
Yeah, I would agree. The Dodgers and the Padres, they're clearing away
right now they're the 2. Right now they're
in the National League.
I think the Braves are a little bit better too at this point, but I mean, the Braves just find a way, and the Braves can hit the hell out of the baseball. So, the Braves.
I can't stand the Braves.
Well, nobody can, but you got to give them credit where credit is due. They always seem to find a way. At least the last 2 seasons, and it looks like they're going to win their 3rd straight division crown this year.
Mike Parker checks in. White Sox has some serious bats.
They sure do.
Phillies 0-0-2-4. The Marlins have the tiebreaker against the Phillies. Yes, they did win the season series. They've won the season series quite handedly, to be frank about it. And then we got some we're going to get into next week's way too early preview of college and pro football, Brad. The SEC's coming to play next Saturday.
I believe the Big Ten is going to be playing in October.
Yes, they have decided. Well, they're such frauds. They're such frauds. Once they figure
because they weren't going to play until
but once these idiots in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten realized how much money, how much TV revenue they're going to be losing by not playing the Rose Bowl game, because you can't have a Rose Bowl game because it's Pac-12 versus Big Ten.
Right.
Every year, that's the traditional matchup. All of a sudden, when they realized that, they did a revote. Now they're playing all of a sudden.
Well, the Big Ten also decided because as soon as the SEC said they were going to play, then the Big Ten, all of a sudden the Big Ten decided, okay, we're going to have to play too.
Yeah, the SEC, they don't give a shit down there. They're playing football.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No.
Nope.
So,
they're playing football.
Yeah. So
So
I
we
mean,
got the SEC coming to play.
actually, I'm glad to see that these guys are all playing because how the hell can you have a draft when none of these guys are playing? How the hell are you supposed to figure out who to draft?
It makes it even harder for idiot Howie Roseman to evaluate the players when he already has a hard time to begin with.
I hear you. Hey, let me ask you this because I mean, it's going on. This is an issue right now in New York. Is Dave Gettleman going to get canned at the end of the season? Because
No.
the Giants without Barkley, you can smell a 4-12, 3-13 season.
Is that Dave Gettleman? Is that Dave Gettleman's fault though? That Saquon Barkley? I mean,
Who puts the players on the field?
um, look, I think Dave Gettleman gets a bad rap as a general manager. I really do.
I think he causes more problems than I think he causes more problems with his attitude.
But Brett, just hear me out. I understand he made the huge mistake with Soldier, and he makes some mistakes in free agency. But his free agent signings thus far last season, Bradbury and Martinez, they're working out. He drafted Daniel Jones, who I like.
He's okay.
Dexter Lawrence is an animal in the middle of that line. He's a former first-round pick. So, I mean, I think Dave Gettleman really gets a bad rap as a general manager.
Well, his offensive line for 3 years in a row has been pathetically bad. So, and no matter what he does, it seems like everything he does is wrong with the offensive line.
How about this? You send the Eagles Dave Gettleman. We'll send you Howie Roseman.
No, I don't want him either. I just want a competent general manager who knows what he's doing. He goes and
this is why you need to be punished, Brad, and you need to be taught a lesson. You need to have 3 to 5 years with Howie Roseman as your GM so you can appreciate what a good general manager like Dave Gettleman can do for your football organization.
We had Jerry Reese in there for 3 years too long.
Oh, he was horrible. I would.
He ruined the team, and Gettleman really. What has Gettleman done? Honestly, this is year 3. We're probably going to be a 4-12, 3-13.
I mean,
we have no depth at running back.
This is what you do. I mean, you're just like me, but from a New York standpoint.
But is he going to sign Devontae Freeman so we can actually have a decent running back? Now that Barkley's gone,
that's not a bad idea.
Or are we still going to be Mr. Cheapskate and save the Maras their money because God forbid we actually go out and try to win? I mean, we need Devontae Freeman now. We need a running back. I mean, who are you going to use? You're going to use Wayne Gallman as your future running back for the rest of the season?
No, and Deion Lewis, he's not the answer either.
Deion Lewis, come on.
They need Devontae Freeman. That's a perfect fit.
I mean, open up your pocketbook and pay the guy. You give him a 1-year deal. He'll sign a 1-year deal. You may have to overpay, but it'll just be for this season. We need a running back. You can't go into the NFL against NFL teams with shitty running backs. They can't do anything. That's ridiculous.
Well,
I want to see Gettleman go out there and bring us in a decent running back. Oh, the Raiders just scored a touchdown.
Yeah, the Raiders got a touchdown. Number 45 there. I don't know who that is, but it helps nobody's fantasy team.
No.
Looks like it's going to be 10-7. Pending the extra point, it's going to be 10-7. New Orleans over the Las Vegas Raiders. Bill Middlebrook chimes in. The Cy Young Award, every personal record, even the World Series champs won't mean anything this year. If they were ever going to use an asterisk, this would be the year. I don't agree with that at all. It was the same for everybody. Everybody played 60 games. Every player had the same opportunity to win the MVP or the Cy Young Award. Look, I mean, life's not perfect. We had this coronavirus take the nation by storm, and professional sports did the best they could getting back on track. And I'm against an asterisk next to.
Here's what I could say to Bill Middlebrook. Bill, if you haven't noticed in the American League, the top 2 hitters in the league are Tim Anderson and DJ LeMahieu. Guess what? Last year, over 162 games. Guess how they finished last year with that? Same two guys. So I mean, Luke Voigt has blossomed. It would have been nice to see what Luke Voigt could have done in 162 games this year. I think he could have hit 50 home runs the way he's going. It would have been nice to have gotten the chance to see that. But Are you going to deny the fact that he's had a great year? I mean, a lot of these guys. Look at the kid Tatis out in San Diego. He's been a fabulous player.
He's probably going to win the National League MVP.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look, what I would say to you is this: if you see the Blue Jays playing, the Phillies in the World Series, okay, you might have a point, okay, because statistically, or no, excuse me, even more of a joke. If the Blue Jays played the Marlins in the World Series, you may have a point, okay, but because
it's not going to happen.
But
Stop.
It's not
going to happen. The cream is going to rise to the top. Once they get the home field advantage, they go into the bubble. The cream is going to rise to the top.
Yeah. Are you going to tell me that the White Sox wouldn't have been good over 162 games? Because I strongly disagree with that. Are you going to tell me that the Braves wouldn't win the division over 162 games? Yeah, they probably would have. Maybe the Nationals would have come back. But you know what? The Nationals didn't win because Juan Soto wasn't on the field most of the season. You know, and unfortunately, Strasburg hurt his hand. He has carpal tunnel or whatever the hell it is in his hand, and he can't pitch. So it's not their year this year. But you know what? If you think that the Dodgers are going to get knocked out of the playoffs early, I don't think that's going to happen. You know, if you think the Padres wouldn't have been any good this year, I seriously think that that's not true. Are some of the bad teams were they able to stay in the race a little longer, like the Orioles and the Tigers and the Mariners? Yeah, I mean, listen, the Mariners just got eliminated yesterday. I think over 162 games they wouldn't have lasted till the last week of the season. Yes, but I mean, for the most part, the best teams are in there, and the bad teams are not going to be in there. So, for this 1 year. Let's see some of the teams that haven't been in the playoffs in a while. Let's see them get in there and get a little experience, and it should be fun. I mean, I'm glad they're playing. Thank God they're playing.
I mean, I understand that, Rob, but you have a great start or slow start in less than half of a season changes everything, but we can agree to disagree. But what's the solution? You can't play 162 games this year.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Not playing at all.
At least we played. I mean, at least they played some games, and I mean, it was fun.
I'm anti asterisk everything. Some real bad shit has to go down for me to put an asterisk next to something. I'm not an asterisk guy when it comes to Barry Bonds in the steroid era. I'm not an asterisk guy when it comes to the Red Sox and their sign stealing. I'm not an asterisk guy when it comes to the Astros and their sign stealing. Something really significantly askew, worse than the coronavirus, which has been terrible, has to happen for me to consider putting an asterisk next to something. Because if something happens that's so bad that you need an asterisk, you probably shouldn't be playing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you about that.
So I'm anti-asterisks. All right, Brad, let's look ahead to next week. It's early. It's Monday. The early lines are out. Go around, good exercise. We can go around the league.
And we have a great schedule for next week, guys. I mean, there's really good games this week.
I haven't dove into it.
Oh, there's some good games. Check out this schedule. Check out this group of games this week.
All right, let's start on Thursday, which is a complete dud. The Miami Dolphins visit the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would significantly favor the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have no problem playing 2.5 points. How about Gardner Minshew, Brad?
He had a pretty good game yesterday, huh?
He's pretty good.
He's not bad.
He can make plays. He's a leader. He can move around. I mean, they nearly beat the Titans yesterday.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Lawrence is going to be on a quarterback in that team if they're the worst team in the league.
I don't know. Maybe you go with Minshew and you pick an offensive lineman or a defensive guy or a playmaker for Gardner Minshew.
Well, if you get the first round pick, then you trade down and you get yourself like 3 or 4 picks. Okay,
you can do that as well.
Yeah, they might be able to do that. Next game,
Miami, the Dolphins stink. They might as well put Tua in.
Yeah, I could see. I like Jacksonville to win the game. I think they find a way to win. National TV game. They'll be motivated.
Houston Texans 0-2. Boy, it doesn't get any easier for the Houston Texans. How about that poor Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson? First off, Bill O'Brien starts the season off on a sour note by trading DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals.
And DeAndre Hopkins has been absolutely brilliant out there.
Then they open on Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs in Kansas City when the Chiefs are getting their rings. And then, okay, you get to have a home game in week 2, but you're playing the Ravens.
Yeah. And by the way,
you're going to Pittsburgh in week 3.
Who may have the best defense in the NFL. Good luck.
Yeah, I have no problem laying 3.5 with Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh wins that game going away. The LA Rams travel to Buffalo to play the Buffalo Bills. That is going to be a very good game.
I think the Rams get hit in the mouth. I think they drop a game here. I think the Bills win at home.
Yeah, I agree. I think them being on the East Coast 2 weeks in a row, that's tough.
Now, I would assume that they're going to stay East.
Yeah, I would think they would, but I mean,
They're not going to go back to LA after playing Philadelphia, then going to Buffalo. That would make no sense, right?
No, they probably will hang around. But I mean, Buffalo is a very difficult team to play against in Buffalo, and they have a very good defense. They'll score enough points to win. I think it's going to be that'll be a low scoring game. I think Buffalo can win that game like 20-17, something along those lines.
Yeah, Buffalo laying, according to Sports Insight, that's where I'm getting my numbers from right now. Buffalo a 2.5-point favorite. I'll lay the 2.5. I like Buffalo in this game.
Yeah, I do too. I think they win by 3.
The Tennessee Titans, 2-0 Tennessee Titans, travel to Minnesota. And Brad, I got to tell you, I don't think there's a bigger disaster in the league than the Minnesota Vikings. All due respect to what's going on in Philadelphia.
They could easily go 0-3. But I think the Vikings come out this weekend and play a big-time game, and they win that game.
I think Tennessee buries them. I'm going to go head-to-head with you on this one. I'll lay the 2.5 points on the road. I hate betting against home dogs, but I picked the Tennessee Titans to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl for a reason. I think they're really good.
I think they are. I think they are too. But I do think that their strength, the strength of the Titans' offense, is the strength of the Minnesota Vikings defense, and that's the front four. And I do think Minnesota gets it done this time.
Okay.
They're going to come out and play their best game of the season, and then they're going to win the game because their season's kind of on the line. If Chicago and Green Bay end up being 3-0, they're done. So they got to win that game.
Speaking of seasons on the line, we talked about at the top of the show, the Cincinnati Bengals are coming to Philadelphia. I think the line is telling me everything I need to know about this game. The Eagles, despite their struggles, are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I'll lay the 6.5.
That's low. I mean, I think
You think it's low?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean the Eagles under normal circumstances would be like a 13 to 15-point favorite because of the struggles at 6.5. I think you're getting a bargain here. I think you go with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to score a lot of points.
Look at Mr. New York, more confident than me about the game.
Well, I've been way too confident with your group this year. I thought they were better than this, but you know what? I think they break out against the Bengals. The Bengals defense.
You got a big time get right game.
Yeah, I can see the Eagles. I see the Eagles winning this game pretty easily.
Double-digit win for the Eagles this weekend, Brad?
Yes. Yeah, I think they're going to put a lot of points on the board too. So I would bet. I love that game.
All right, that makes me feel better about it because you can't go 0-3. It can't happen. So
no,
on the line,
not. Yeah, and we have a couple of really good games. The first one I want to get to is the Dallas Cowboys at the Seattle Seahawks at 4:25, the Fox NFL game of the week.
I'm going to take the 4.5 here with Dallas.
4.5 is a lot.
Just because I think they're coming off of
Cowboys can score.
Dallas can score. Seattle can score. I think there's going to be a lot of points in that game. I like the Cowboys plus 4.5. They might win.
Yeah. Now I like the Seahawks and the money line, but I do like the Cowboys to cover. I think they're going to keep it close.
What a game of the week that's going to be.
Yeah, that's going to be it.
Take care of their business against the Bengals, and we can watch the Dallas Cowboys get throttled by Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, the interesting game of the week to me is the Washington football team, and they are in Cleveland this week to face the Browns. We're going to find out a lot about the Washington football team and just how good they really are. Because
what was the final of that game?
35-30.
No. The Cardinals and
are you talking about the Bengals and Browns or the
No, the Cardinals and the Washington football 30-15.
30-15, and it could have been a lot worse. The Cardinals took it easy on them at the end because the Cardinals were like on the 5-yard line, and then they could have scored a touchdown at the end of the game, and they didn't. They settled for because they kicked the field goal. They kicked the field goal because the Redskins kept calling timeouts. So I guess they kicked the field goal to just make a point. But if the Cardinals really wanted to score that last touchdown, I'm sure they could have. It's almost like they could have scored any time they wanted yesterday. That's how dominant they were.
I mean, I'm by no means putting real money on this game, but I'll take the 7 points.
I just think it's a very interesting game between the Browns and the Washington football team. Now, the Washington football team is getting 7 points. Did you say that was the line?
That's correct. Yes.
That's a lot of points.
I'll take the 7.
I take the 7 too. But I'll tell you what, they better put pressure on Baker, because if Baker has time, he's going to tear them up. Because the one thing that we know about the Redskins is they may have a good pass rush, but their secondary is trash. And it was proved. I mean, yesterday, if you think it's not trash, take a look at some of the highlights of what Kyler Murray was doing to that team. I mean, he was just a wrecking ball yesterday.
How about next Sunday night, Brad? The Green Bay Packers going to the Superdome, taking on the Saints.
That's going to be a beauty.
The Saints are 3.5-point favorites. I gotta tell you, I don't have a problem.
I like the Saints. I like the Saints at home. I would never bet against the Saints at home.
And I think the Packers, they're off to a hot start, but I think they have holes in their roster.
Yeah, I
think the Saints are just better.
The Saints on that turf, they're too fast. Even whether Thomas plays or not, the Saints are going to beat them.
All right, we got a couple dud games to go through here. The Bears, 2-0 Bears, visit the 0-2 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons stink. I'll take 3.5 points in the Bears.
The Bears are the underdogs?
Yes, they're on the road.
I'm taking the 3.5 all day long.
Atlanta, they're terrible. Did you see that onside kick?
You mean when they all stood around? They
stood around watching the ball. Like, what do you do?
They Cam Newton'd it.
I mean, how Dan Quinn still has a job down there?
I have no idea, but I've never seen a team just sit there and what. It was almost like they were saying, "Don't touch it because it's not going to go 10 yards." And then when it went 10 yards, all of a sudden they were like, "Oh shit! Somebody better fall on the ball." Fall on the damn ball when it's 5.
Did they think it was a punt? I mean,
just dive on top of. Listen, you don't have to try to field it. Just dive on top of the football. You know, when it's spinning like that, I get it that it's hard to field, but you know what? If you just dive on top of the ball, you're not gonna lose it. Just dive on top of it. That's all. I mean, those big fat bodies will literally squash the football, and it's not gonna go anywhere. That's what you got to do on plays like that. I mean, that was just inexcusable to allow that to happen.
I think the Niners complete the sweep of New York. They play the Giants next week. They're giving up 4.5.
Oh, that's an easy win for the 49ers.
It's interesting, though, because Nate Mullins looks like he's going to start at quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo with the high ankle sprain. The Niners are banged up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Bosa is out for the year. Mostert probably isn't going to play. Jimmy G's out. Deebo Samuel's out. But I don't know. I just don't think the Giants. I just don't think the Giants have enough. Maybe they can play some football without Barkley. I don't know.
Without Barkley, they're going to have a real hard time against these really good defenses. I mean, Jones did all he could yesterday. In the second half, he was throwing the ball to everybody, everybody on the moon, and they did a pretty good job moving the ball and getting some points in the second half against Chicago. But I mean, San Francisco,
that piece of shit Nelson Aguilar making another play.
Well,
fuck that guy.
He's a bum.
He's not he caught a touchdown in week 1, and he just made a very nice play in the open field on Monday Night Football here.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Okay.
But you know what? The Raiders are now in a situation where they're playing. They're trying to play a shootout with New Orleans, and they can't. They don't match up.
The Jets are going to go to Indianapolis. The Jets are getting 10 points. I'm really disappointed. I thought the Jets with Darnold were going to take a step forward. Obviously, Bell gets hurt in week 1. Just a bad.
From what I've heard from the Jet fans is that their defense is really, really missing. Is missing Adams. So I mean, you go and you trade your best defensive player before the season starts. That may have taken a little bit of the starch off out of the team. And you know what? Let's be honest, Rob. Adam Gase is terrible. I mean, he's not a good coach. That was a big mistake that team made by hiring him. And I think that I think Darnold suffers for it. But the Colts. I'm not convinced that the Colts are any good either.
No, I'll take the Jets plus 10.5.
I think 10.5 is more than enough points for the Jets.
A lot of points in pro football. I'll take plus 10.
The Jets. I don't think the Jets are that bad that they should be getting for 10.5 points. I think the Jets are going to give them a good run for their money. I take the 10.5.
The Panthers going out to Los Angeles, take on the Chargers. Chargers are 7.5-point favorites in this game. The Chargers have the kid starting, Tyrod Taylor. Had chest pain complications before the game against the Chiefs. Herbert gets the start. I thought Herbert showed well. I think that Herbert gives them the best chance to win.
Yeah, it's too bad for Tyrod because he was actually going to get a chance to play. But I mean, listen, Herbert is definitely shown that he has ability to be an NFL quarterback.
And then obviously
it's very interesting to see how he handles the situation. But they've got some talent on that team, so look out.
And then the Panthers, obviously, they're going to be out without Christian McCaffrey for 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. It looks like so he's not going to be out there this week.
So they're like the Giants. They're a lousy team that lost their best player. So the only difference is we lost our guy for the season. So.
I have no problem playing the 7.5.
Here's a little interesting thing for you, Rob. If you're the Giants and you end up with the worst record in the league, what do you do? Do you perhaps trade Jones?
You try and trade because there's going to be teams lining up to get Lawrence.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, though. Maybe the Giants keep Lawrence and they trade Jones?
It's interesting.
Yeah, just a thought because, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
look, I don't think that the Giants are going to have the first pick in the draft just because I think Jones is going to develop, and I think he's good.
I mean, I think he will too, but I mean, what concerns me about Jones is the fumbles. I mean, every game. I mean, it's got to stop. He's not been too bad with the interceptions. I mean, he's been reasonable with them, but the fumbles every game have got to stop. I mean, you can't keep doing that.
2 games left here. The Buccaneers go out to Denver. The Denver's 6-point home dogs. I like the Denver Broncos here.
Yeah, another game that I thought is a very interesting matchup. I think Denver can win the game outright, to be honest with you. I'm not so sure about Tampa Bay. I mean, Brady's gonna be okay, but you know what? Denver has a good defense.
And Denver always plays good at home.
And they're always a real tough team at home. Fans or no fans, it's not easy to win in Denver. I'll take the points.
And then Detroit's going out to Arizona. Arizona's laying 5.5. Maybe a little letdown here. That seems like a little bit of a short line to me. Maybe Detroit.
It's in the game
outright. Maybe covers the spread.
The game's in Arizona, correct?
Yes.
Oh, Arizona's gonna smoke them. I wonder who they play next week, because if it's a trap game, I'll tell you if it's a trap game. Let me just check real quick. See what the let's see.
Carolina, so not really a trap game.
No, they're gonna bury him. I mean that could be one of the ugliest games of the week right there. I mean, I just can't imagine what Kyler Murray is going to do to that Lion defense, because the Lions defense is terrible.
And that guy, that Patricia, he's such a lame duck out there.
Yeah, he's
no good.
No. And the Lions are the Lions. They're going to get smoked. I'm telling you, what I saw in Arizona yesterday, that was a very impressive football.
They have a top 10 defense as well. Statistically, through the first 2 weeks, they have a top 10 defense.
I mean, remember, they beat the 49ers the first week of the season in San Francisco. That team, I mean, boy, you called it right on the nose with them, and I got to give you some props there. That team, to me, is a very dangerous football team.
I mean, if that defense is gonna be top 10 with that offense, that's a dangerous combination for the rest of the year.
I'm telling you, if you guys haven't seen the Cardinals play yet, watch them play, because that is one fun offense. I mean, that offense is like the Ravens offense. I mean, that quarterback, that little guy Murray, he can run the football, and he's a good passer. You know, if he can as long as he doesn't get hurt, he's going to be one hell of a player this year.
All right. That'll do it for the Sports Hounds. Thank you to everyone who listened. Thank you to everyone who liked the show. Thank you for everyone who commented on the show. Shout out to our sponsors, Ambuck Services and Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy. Shout out for our merchandise partner, Philly Drinkers, LLC. Check out phillydrinkers.com. Click on the A2D radio collection. Get your A2D merchandise. Don't forget, next week, top of the show, MLB playoff preview. Definitely one World Series champion, Greg Pryor, 1985 World Series champion with the Royals. He'll be joining us. Possibly a 6-time Gold Glover, 3-time All-Star catcher as well, Jake Sundberg. They're starting a podcast. They're coming on, talk some baseball. Until then, shout out to Frank Vesby, keeping the train on the tracks, producing the show, does a great job every Monday. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. Until next Monday, have a good week, everybody.